Welcome. The next 30 minutes will change forever your thinking about your most precious asset in life, your health. You're about to meet an extraordinary man, Dr. Eric Davis. Dr. Davis is widely respected in the field of biological dentistry, blood chemistry evaluations, and nutritional consulting. In addition to his busy dental practice, Dr. Davis is Clinical Director of the Nutrition Diagnostics Centre for Perfect Weight and Body Chemistry for Lifelong Health. Dr. Davis is a Fellow of the Australian College of Nutritional and Environmental Medicine. He's conducted postgraduate studies in clinical nutrition, neural therapy, homotoxicology, medical acupuncture, and electroacupuncture according to Vol. He's a naturopathic physician and a member of the Australian Naturopathic Practitioners Association. He's also a founding member and past president of the Australian Society of Oral Medicine and Toxicology, and has maintained membership with the International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology, the Australian Medical Acupuncture Society, and the Australian College of Nutrition and Environmental Medicine. The following presentation was specially videoed to share his message with the growing body of thinking individuals who are becoming more and more alarmed at the misinformation surrounding health issues in our increasingly industrialised and polluted environment. Here's Eric Davis.
Thanks very much for attending. What's going to be said tonight could change people's life. There's no question about that. I firmly believe it. We've seen it over and over and over again because we've monitored patients' chemistries. Now, if we're going to look at weight, how can we achieve our perfect weight? And more than that, lifelong health. How can we do that? Well, there's 6 fundamental keys that we need to follow. You really have to develop the right mindset. That's number one. You've got to establish a reason why that you would even attempt to get healthy. And if you were ever going to get healthy, when is the best time to start? Absolutely. It's never too late. And if you ask someone who's 85 years of age, would you like to be healthy? They're going to say yes. There is no question about that. Number 2, we have to stop starving ourselves. We have to overcome malnutrition. So right from the start, I'm going to put it very clearly that our program is not about calorie counting and restriction diets. There's nothing more to that than simply malnutrition. You can become malnourished by 2 ways. Get your calorie level really down or exercise from dusk till dawn. It has the same effect. You will become malnourished. And in the process of becoming malnourished, you may well lose weight, but you will actually become unwell. We also need to address food addictions because some people have got this perpetual desire to continue to eat the very food that's causing them trouble. And one of the most common ones happens to be weight. And we've all heard it and we know it personally. The 4th key point is that we have to detoxify the system because these environmental pollutants and intoxicants cause chronic inflammation. It results in inflammation going unabated. And when we have chronic inflammation, we have the basis of all chronic degenerative disease. We also need to address hormonal dysfunction, but by tying a program all together, hormonal imbalances, those metabolic impairments, are going to respond and normalise. And obviously to adopt the correct exercise program. Is it from walking from dawn till dusk? Because historically, a lot of marathon runners that have been involved in long-distance exercise programs become unwell. And we can give you countless examples of that, of our clients. And one that comes to mind, and we're going to discuss this just for a short, brief moment, is a young lady that presented to us about 3 years ago. Severe rheumatoid arthritis, and on the same token, she was underweight. She'd been a triathlete for many, many years, following the politically correct diet, which is low fat, low cholesterol, low protein, low salt, eating fish 3 times a week. She got to a point where her protein status was so impaired the toxin took its ravages and she ended up with connective tissue breakdown, in other words, rheumatoid arthritis. After 3 years of a consistent, persistent effort, she has recovered. She's now working on a regular basis and she's no longer falling asleep at work. So moving forward, the same factors that make people unwell make them overweight or they make them underweight. So the same factors that make people unwell are the same factors that make people overweight or underweight. So not being your perfect weight is simply a reflection of an underlying health issue. And if you address those underlying health issues, your weight normalises. I'm going to introduce this concept that cholesterol lowering, we've got to accept that cholesterol is a friend, not an enemy. Your body's made by design and you're designed to win. So when we look at a chemistry, it's simply a reflection of your body's best attempt at that point in time in winning. In other words, it's a victory match. That's what the body is. But look at this. Morbid obesity is associated generally with a rise in blood lipids. So we see high blood levels of fat. We've also glucose. You can measure insulin levels which are actually elevated. So that's what's classified by morbid obesity. The sad part is this. In the Journal of Obesity, it was shown that those people that lost weight and held it off over a 4-year period died more frequently. Well, let's examine why that's occurred, because that's a really major. In other words, you can go on to a weight loss program with the intention of losing weight, and yet the outcome is premature death. So in the Journal of Obesity in these statistics were reflected. It's what we call a J-shaped curve. When we looked at the BMI, those people that had a very low BMI, in other words, they were thin, died more frequently. Those with a very high BMI died more frequently. So there's what we call the BMI index that is optimal. Well, in our situation, what we like to do is we like to measure fat. Adding a little bit more than a little bit less gives you your perfect weight. The curve occurs with the cholesterol curve. What we know is that low cholesterol is associated with increased death due to suicide, single car accident behaviour and infectious disease, as well as cancer. So low cholesterol is associated with cancer, a whole host of health disorders. Now, high cholesterol, very high in the age of 40, there's a slight increase in heart attack, a slight. In females, what they've shown is that those older women with higher cholesterols live longer. Now, everything I'm saying to you is fully referenced, and we can make those references available. Even more alarming, because there's this absolute intention for everyone to have zero cholesterol. The lower the better. So why is there a rise in mortality for people who succeed in weight loss and cholesterol lowering? Why are more people dying if they lose weight successfully and their cholesterol? Because that's what the study shows. Well, 2 major studies. One was in the Metabolic Disorders Journal in 1999. The other one was in the American Journal of Epidemiology in 2001, showed that primarily it was due to a loss of protein, in other words, poor protein status, as well as exposure to environmental toxins. The evidence presented, which I've just presented to you, the conclusion is whatever program of weight loss or cholesterol reduction you choose should really be done in concert with detoxification and a tailored program. In other words, a program that measures you as an individual and then develops a strategy so you win. We're all in this world together, and it's an industrial. So what toxins are we exposed to? There's not one person in the room that doesn't have a body burden of not more than just one toxin, several toxins. Matter of fact, 7 billion pounds of toxic waste is released each year into our environment. So the polar bears in the North Pole are affected, and the penguins in the South Pole are affected. We're all affected. It was a study done on 9 healthy adults, and they tested for 210 different toxins comprising of heavy metals, pesticides, petrochemicals and solvents. It's the biggest study ever. And what they on average, there were 91 toxins found in every individual. 91 toxins. And those toxins are carcinogenic, they result in infertility, birth defects, reproductive harm. Importantly, they result in chronic inflammation. So people get joint pain, people get gastrointestinal problems, people get aches and pains, start to gain weight. Because these same toxins are what we call metabolic uncouplers. They disturb our metabolism. We're poisoned in utero, so even babies aren't protected. In this particular study, they showed that there were 287 chemicals and toxic metals detected in 10 babies. 217 of them were brain toxins. 208 caused birth defects. What's the consequences of early exposure to toxins? In other words, in utero? Well, low birth weight. Adult, in other words, as an adult, you can develop coronary heart disease, diabetes, stroke, hypertension, depression, and other conditions. There's a whole area of science called epigenetics. That is the influence that our environment has on our genes. So in other words, this generation can have an impact on our future generations. But this is about winning, it's not about losing, so we're going to come up with a solution. In our situation, what we like to do is to do a very comprehensive blood chemistry, a profiling, looking at the metabolic markers so that we can develop a strategy for the individual. If you can identify the problem, you can make the individual aware, they can take action. And that's such an important strategy. We need to accept that the body is made to win. We're not designed to lose. We're going to have a look at a few effects, just looking at chemistries, because we're going to look at cholesterol may elevate, why a cholesterol may drop. Suddenly we start to realise that this discussion is a lot bigger and broader than simply lowering cholesterol to prevent disease, especially heart disease. So the effects of mercury and other toxic metals on our chemistries results in chronic inflammation. And one of the ways the body deals with chronic inflammation is by what we call lipid response. So initially when you're challenged with something, it's like the person who smokes cigarettes. Not every nicotine, he gets thousands of different chemicals and chemicals. They're synergistic. What the body does, it results in a rise because cholesterol carries aboard it various antioxidants. And the purpose of that rise is to mop up and protect. Another example, what do solvents do? They're neurotoxic. It's a solvent. And some people suggest if you drink wine, it's going to raise your good cholesterol. One of the reasons the body does respond in that fashion is so that it can keep that neurotoxin away from sensitive neurological. So it's responding by design. It's not faulty. So what are the three patterns that we look at when we're looking for solvents? And they're the same that occur when you have sugar generally. You will see a rise in what we call serum triglycerides. All the triglyceride is the body depositing into adipose tissue, into fat tissue. So when we triglyceride level, we know the individual. Matter of fact, we can predict it. If I triglyceride level, we've got someone who's malnourished. I see them, I know they're lean. Another major toxin of pesticides. What a pesticide prompts a protective rise in HDL cholesterol, proportion to exposure. So if I see a rise in good, do I applaud or do I say what is the body responding to and how can we help the body deal with that challenge? And that's exactly what we do. If we see a high good cholesterol, we may see platelet counts which are low. So we know that that pesticide's